Hey, good morning, Happy New Year. Demis, where are you? He taught me how to say Happy New Year in Irish. Without it. Say it again.
Blin Honegich.
Blin Honega. You gotta go like this, you can raise your arm up also and toast at the same time. Blin Honega. That's right. All right? You know, in Italian, you don't have to say anything, just go like that. We're happy that everyone's here today. We're honored you're going to hear a wonderful speaker. Deep State was an editor's choice from this one right here. This is a Storm Rising. Deep State, which we have outside, was an editor's choice by the New York Times. But he began his profession with Don Coyote.
Coyote.
A contemporary interpretation of Cervantes. So we've seen Cervantes, Don Quixote, and he has one of his own that became a family film after that. Isn't that right?
I'll clarify.
All right, he'll clarify. But he worked on quite a few movies as a screenwriter, and he'll tell us how he went from writing. In fact, I believe Disney, a couple, one was for Disney. Wasn't
Yes.
it? For Disney, who I've worked in the movie business for 45 years, and everybody who, I guess maybe lately they're paying better, but everybody always, the universal thing was they didn't want to work for Miramax, but they will work for Disney. Was okay, the money.
There's a one-word reason for that. Residuals.
Residuals, that was it.
That's a good word.
Everyone knew when you got your job with one of the people who's up in court trial now, you got your money in advance from him. But he wrote, let me tell you, the original screenplay Arena, a gladiator epic, Moby Dick at DreamWorks Animation, and Beautiful Killer, Universal Pictures with Jessica Alba, and Coliseum at Icon Pictures with Mel Gibson going to direct. His recent credits are Never Back Down, directed by Jeff Wadlow. Haven't you seen? And Damon Hinsu. That's been on streaming.
Yes.
I just saw that, yep, and it's really, really wonderful. And Sniper Ghost Shooter, starring Billy Zane. So he has a lot of credibility and a lot of credits. But forgive me.
A lot of credibility.
No credibility, right? So I apologize for screwing up my words. I feel like, see, that one thing didn't get to me enough. Give me 3, please, and I'll be good. But if we can, let us welcome our speaker. And thank you, Maddie, for contacting him. And Maddie looks all through somehow and goes to conferences and hears people. And 99 out of 100 we don't even listen to. But she finds ones, and we are wonderful. So thank you very much for coming. Ladies, let's give a big hand to Chris Hauty.
Thank you, folks. I did work in the movie business for 3 decades before transitioning to writing thrillers and novels. And I was going to talk about that, and that's my fallback, but this is the first time I've spoken with all writers, other authors, and Maddie also suggested that maybe you've heard from enough screenwriters turned novelists or novelists who want to be screenwriters. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my writing history, but we're going to get right into something else that I think might be more valuable than my Mel Gibson stories. For you guys, and I want to talk about writing tips. That's going to be today's topic. Writing tips. And so I collected a dozen writing tips from famous writers. And I'm going to tell you the tip, and then I'm going to give you 3 choices of famous authors who came up with that tip. Show of hands, you vote which one is the author who came up with this nugget, and the person who gets the most right of 12 gets to win a arc of book 4. This is book 3 in the series. This came out this past May. Book 4, The Devil You Know, comes out this coming May. So I brought an advanced review copy of that. And then I'm going to talk about each tip, how it relates to me in my writing process and writing life. And then we don't have to wait for the Q&A for anyone to pipe up. We'll talk about each tip. Some of them are real obvious. Some of them are a little more difficult to figure out what the hell famous author is talking about. But anyway, we'll have a good time, hopefully. Anyway, about me. I have been writing most of my life. In high school, I wrote bad Hemingway. In college, I wrote bad Bukowski. In New York City afterwards, I wrote bad Sam Shepard. And then I had to make a living and stop being some bad version of somebody else. And I started writing screenplays. And I never took a writing class in my entire life, any kind of writing class, which probably is a tip. Somewhere there's a tip about that, I bet. And the way I learned how to write screenplays was by reading them. I read screenplays and books for a New York-based producer named Gabe Katzka. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was a good guy. And I wrote a screenplay, sent it to LA. I got 3 phone calls in one night from a producer, an executive, and an agent, and 2 weeks later I was living in Los Angeles, and that was in 1987. I was still working somewhat in, those are the Sniper 6 and Sniper 7 credits back in 2017, 2018. Had lunch with another writer who was a bit frustrated with the process, which was a lot easier then than it is now in Hollywood. And he talked about writing a book. He was writing a novel based on one of his screenplays that he hadn't sold. And I thought that sounded like a pretty good idea. And I guess about 1.5 years later, I had a really nice deal at Simon & Schuster for my first book. So that was a real fortunate turn of events for me. It's been very, very satisfying. Typically, I tell that story in about 40 minutes. You got the super short version, because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about writing tips. So the first tip that we're going to talk about, I'll give you the tip. Always stop while you are going good, and don't worry about it until you start to write the next day. 3 chances, three possibilities. Elmore Leonard, Ernest Hemingway, or Mark Twain? So who? Hold on now, everybody. I'm glad. I like this competitive spirit. Raise hands. Elmore Leonard, Hemingway, or Twain? Most people think Twain. It was Hemingway. Now, we're going on the honor system here. I'm not handing out any little slips of paper with that we collect before I tell you the answers. So please remember how many you get right. And I have a tiebreaker too, a really good one.
Would you be willing to repeat that tip?
Yeah, always stop while you are going good, and don't worry about it until you start to write the next day. So for me, I think that's, I tend to I work by time. I start at 9, I'm sitting at the desk. It doesn't mean the fingers are like creating, prose that's going to entertain the masses, but I'm at my desk at 9 o'clock. And I usually stop at 5:30 with a lunch break. But I totally understand what is being said here by the great Papa Hemingway, because ending my writing day, which doesn't happen very often, thankfully, where you're stuck or you feel like you're just typing and you're not writing, it doesn't make the next day, the next morning, any easier. If you have finished on a high, if you have finished even with a little left in a scene to finish the next day, then I think that's the best process for me. If you can just leave a little bit of a scene that's working, so that you pick it up and it just takes an hour to finish it off, you've kind of gotten the locomotive going. Because for me, that's the best analogy of like getting that big, long 60-car train moving. And once you really start writing, then it all starts to flow. You fall into that kind of almost what I like to refer to as my self-hypnosis. So anybody else have any kind of like version of that? You in the back.
Question. Have you ever started at 9 and finished at 5:30 and written nothing?
Never. I am blessed, and I should knock wood right now. With 45 years plus of writing, I have never been blocked. I have tricks that I use to get going. I always have music playing. I rarely write to silence. It's a specific kind of music. It's not the music I listen to with friends or with my kids, or it's specifically writing music, and I look for it. Relatively simple lyrics, if no lyrics, and that kind of gets me going. That gets me excited. It's music that I like. I've picked it out. It makes me feel excited, energetic, and it gets my brain going. And like I said, if I leave something, a bit of business to finish, then I'm off and running. Yeah?
9 to 5.
Yeah.
You do anything else? Do you get up?
I'm that boring. Oh, no. Do I do anything else? No, I live in a cell, and I just write.
Every 20 minutes you get up and...
Oh, yeah, I get up. Yeah. No, my doctor has told me I need to get up. So, but that's all I do in the day. It's a job. I don't think the President of the United States, presidents, for all those 8 hours that he's, in the workday. It's and before that I go swim or do some exercise and read the paper and look at the internet. But yeah, it's been that way forever. I really, I'm not rich, or at least I wasn't born that way. So, this is how I've raised a family and bought a house and made for retirement. So it's paying bills. Anybody else on that one? Yeah.
I usually like actually two things. So that I can keep working, I have a desk that goes up different levels so I can stand it.
Right.
And secondly, what I do at the end of my writing each day is I leave an unfinished sentence.
There you go. Same idea. Yeah. Sentence, I've never done that. I end with punctuation, but never.
It's amazing because when you finish that sentence the next day, even though you knew what it was going to be last night, when you finish the sentence the next day, it just kind of surges the rest of your energy.
I think we all develop as writers, we all develop tricks to make it work. And I've never spoken with another writer who's been severely blocked, but it just seems like a cruel fate for a writer. Let's go on to the next tip. We've got 12 of these suckers to get through. Okay, second tip, writing tips. Abandon the idea that you are ever going to finish. Lose track of the 400 pages and write just one page for each day. Super weird tip, I think. I've never seen that one before. And a lot of these tips, believe me, I spent all day yesterday culling through tips from all, and a lot of them begin to sound the same. I'm going to repeat that one. It's weird. And when you hear who wrote it, who tipped it, maybe you'll appreciate. Abandon the idea that you are ever going to finish. That you are ever going to finish. We'll talk about what the hell this means. Lose track of the 400 pages and write just one page for each day. Okay, who said this? John Steinbeck, Neil Gaiman, am I pronouncing that right? Or James Patterson? So that's not one of the choices. How many people think Steinbeck? A smattering, about 5. Gaiman, about 5. Patterson, some people aren't voting, but most people thought Patterson. That's Steinbeck. So I haven't thought a whole lot about these tips before. Keep track of your answers, how many you get right. Back there, I saw some high-fiving.
Excuse me.
Yes,
I'm sorry, you said abandon the idea that you're ever going to finish.
that's correct.
But, and then there was another part.
Well, yeah, lose track of the 400 pages.
You mean abandon that idea or simply lose track? Both.
We're going to talk about that. I'm giving you the tip verbatim.
All right, lose track.
Lose track of the 400 pages. I think what Steinbeck is saying is that don't, this guy sounds like the ultimate, and Larry knows I hate this phrase, but pantser, I really can't stand that word. But work as discovery writer, that's better, thank you. I've been looking for something to replace that.
White pager.
Yeah, like as a screenwriter, and those of you who have written for Hollywood or attempted screenplays, that's the land of outlines and treatments and going over the goddamn story for months before you see one check, So, and that's the way I wrote for 3 decades. And this is the 3rd book, 4th book coming out in May, and now I'm almost done the first draft of a 5th book. And with each book, I've become more of a discovery writer. I started out, as a matter of fact, the first book, to be honest, was just a complete adaptation of an unsold screenplay, Deep State. Don't tell my editor. But with each book, I've gotten further and further away from writing outlines. I'll have a general idea. It's like a 1 or 2 pages, but so much happens that I could have never foreseen because I'm just letting the characters, lead me down the primrose path. So Steinbeck is saying, for the recorder, just forget about the ending. Forget about what you've plotted, and this is really crazy. I think he was smoking something. Lose track of the 400 pages. I think he's really saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you think otherwise, but he's saying just really be in the moment of each scene that you're writing, which is really very brave but who's going to argue with Steinbeck? Comment or question in the back?
Yeah, I actually interpreted it totally differently.
Go for it.
I thought that what he meant was, 400 pages is a lot to have to get done. But if you just focus on today's task, one thing at a time, it's like you say you're.
I like yours.
Say you're moving a house. And
Yeah.
Oh my God, I have to pack this whole freaking house.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just go, no, right now I have to pack the books in this bookcase.
Yeah.
That's not terrible. But if you think about the whole house and you don't pick something and you don't get started, you're hosed.
Yeah.
I think that's what
And
he
so
said, right?
that's what I thought he meant.
Yeah, I agree. I now looking at it again, as like I said, I didn't. I wanted to hit these things fresh. I think that's correct. I think that how can you? It says lose track. I mean, that's the lose track. Forget. I would phrase that differently because it's like track of 400 pages in my mind is like because that's the hard part about writing a novel as opposed to writing a screenplay is keeping all of that stuff. As it gets longer, you got to keep that stuff in your brain, and that's why I never take breaks from writing. I hate to take I take a day off, and that's it. Otherwise, I lose track of all that stuff. But I hear what you're saying. Go ahead.
I think for me, what he's saying is let go of the burden of the entire project. Because
Yeah,
I would think
that's what I'm thinking.
That's the origin of writer's block. I mean, if you'd be overwhelmed if you think that, oh my God, I have to do this now. I did it. Blah, 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 blah.
Perhaps. But writer's block, I think, is more blank page than
Whatever.
finishing. But
But let go of the burden.
burden, go.
I actually did that just this morning. I have a deadline. It's the first time I've ever had a deadline in my writing career, and I was totally stressed out about it. But then I'm not the queen of math, but I figured out I only need to write one good page per day.
Okay.
Deadline.
Yeah, I have a quota.
Garbage or
Yeah.
drafts or what, but if I can do one good page a day, I've got it. And I was like, oh, phew.
One more quick comment, I gotta move on.
The question basically is like, enjoy the journey and don't worry about the destination.
I think that also is what he's saying.
And then my question is, where do you get your rush? When you're done?
I get a rush out of making something, totally. Every day is a great day. I live a great life. If I make something, I feel great. If I accomplish something, I mean, that includes washing the dishes. Writing a book, a little bit higher minded, but the same thing. But to create something, that's a real rush. I mean, and that's why when people who haven't been published or come to me and say, I have a great idea, or oftentimes it's for a screenplay, I have a great idea for a movie, and I'm like, if you're going to get enjoyment out of the process of writing this thing and some fulfillment, by all means, forget about trying to get it made. Don't, that's a little Steinbeckian of me. I'm going to have to move on to my next tip.
You said you had a quota.
A quota of words. I at least 1,000 a day. I was reading and reading my tips, gathering tips. Who was it? Stephen King, who's got a lot of freaking writing tips. That guy, good reason. He does 2,000 a day. If you're curious, he says that when you're starting out, start out with 1,000 just to kind of get your, But then as you progress as an author, figure 2,000. I like. There's no hard fast rules with that, but I like 1,000. Okay, third tip. All right, this is a good one. Start as close to the end as possible. End of tip. Start as close, presumably the story, or your whole story. Neil Gaiman, eventually we're going to hit him. Henry Miller or Vonnegut. How many people think Gaiman? No, one person. Miller. Are we not playing anymore? Only two people. Vonnegut. Okay, everyone scored. Why? Have you heard that one? Is that a famous one? Yeah, it sounds like Vonnegut, doesn't it? That's an obvious one. You're not learning. That's just a good one. I like how short and sweet it is. But it's just a reminder. And here's the thing about tips. I was thinking about this on the ride down. It's like, okay, I've been writing all my life. You fuckers, you can't. Excuse me, you bastards, you can't tell me. I've been drinking. Come on, give me a break. You can't tell me anything. I know enough. Even you, Vonnegut, and you, Steinbeck. But what's really good about this in reviewing these tips and preparing for today, this stuff is valuable. No matter how many books you've written, these are reminders that, I wish I could sort of put them on my walls because, it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to get lazy. It's easy to have the wrong ambitions in your writing day and all that stuff. So, start as close to it as possible. It's like there's several versions of this one. And did I include the one that's there's one that everyone's heard, but it's always the same thing. Don't bore your readers. Don't start with stuff that doesn't matter. There's a million different ways to say that one. What I think is interesting about it, it applies to everything, all the elements that make a good story. It's like the whole story, start the plot as close to the ending as possible, leaving out all the extraneous stuff and finding interesting ways to get the information into your story without it being a whole chapter, to a scene, starting the scenes. That's more of a movie thing, but I think it applies to books as well. Just, keep things snappy, especially, presumably, most people in here are writing more commercial fiction as opposed to literary fiction, and all those rules all the tips get thrown into the wastebasket if you're talking about literary fiction, though we're not going to get into any kind of argument in this room about literary versus commercial fiction. We don't have that time of day. One comment on Vonnegut's tip. Yes.
This is Vonnegut.
Vonnegut. Kurt.
Well, this is assuming,
When who's talking? Me or her?
Yeah, you can talk. You're the recorder.
Right. You said start as close to the end as possible. I thought you were giving that as advice for a writer to start off in a great thing. But you're saying do that for your plot stuff for the sake of the reader. I thought you were first saying it for the sake of the writer. Start as close to the end as possible.
For both. I mean, it's a writing tip. These are writing tips. So it's a tip to an author to start your story, your scene, your sentence as close to the end as possible.
Okay, all right, your
Yeah.
story, not the whole project. Okay, all right. Thank you.
that's assuming you know what
The
is
end.
your story.
Yeah.
And you don't start off with blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
so you can cut it.
That's called the second draft. Okay. Okay, tip 4. Okay, tip 4. Don't be nervous. Work calmly, joyously, recklessly on what is in hand. Okay, this is going to be an easy one. You guys got this one. I'll repeat. Don't be nervous. Work calmly, joyously, recklessly on what is in hand. And that's either Henry Miller, King, or Chekhov. How many people think Miller? Henry Miller. There's 1, 2, 4, 5. How many people think Stephen King? A bunch more. And Chekhov? 0. One Chekhov. Henry Miller. Come on, Henry Miller. The man was hell on wheels. I just like that tip because that it describes the writing process. I mean, if you're not reckless, if you're not joyous, and if you're not calm, which I read as confident, you're not. Maybe it's not the thing for you. I try to make that part of every day, of my writing. Go ahead.
Joyously and recklessly.
Recklessly on what the project at hand. I think one word that really jumps out there is reckless. This book, Storm Rising, my 3rd book, came out this May. It's my favorite. It sold the least, but I think it's the best written. I think it's awesome, and it's also reckless because it's about I have a franchise character, Haley Chill. I can't give too much away because there's a lot twisting and turning in the first book, Deep State. This is the 3rd book. They can be read out of order, but the first book is best to start with. The big bad in this book is white supremacy in the military. Wow. And look, most of the people the readers in this genre, call it what you want, military thrillers or political thrillers, they tend to, they're predominantly male and they're predominantly conservative. Now, my books are neither, I like to think that they're completely nonpartisan, but nevertheless, if you talk about white supremacy, that is that's a white hot button, no pun, and not too much of a spoiler, I don't think. It might entice you to buy and read the book. She's like a 27-year-old, my franchise character, 27-year-old woman. I thought, well, how can I make life difficult for her? Because that's what we're doing as authors, is creating conflict and making life difficult for our protagonists. And so in the middle of saving the United States, she learns she's pregnant. So second strike against the book in terms of some readers. So, well, depending on the consequences and her choices, yeah, it's potentially. So that was a reckless book for me, and it was a dark book. I wrote in the depth of 2020 and all hell breaking loose in this country. So it was a really, I can't say it was a joyous experience, but it was reckless. So that's why I love that tip. And so I think no matter what your aspirations are with your writing, being reckless. Don't be safe. Pick topics that aren't just, wow, this is interesting or entertaining. If it seems like, oh, I'm going to piss off some people, go ahead and piss off some people. It's good. It'll be good for your writing. All right, 5, no time for poetry, but exactly what is. I have no idea. Like I said, I just pulled out what seemed good and fruitful for discussion. No time for poetry. But, I know what this is. But exactly what is. Okay, Mark Twain? Nobody? Jack Kerouac? Or Elmore Leonard? So a couple, you want me to run by those votes again? So, I screwed up the format. Mark Twain? 0. Kerouac? Half the room. Leonard? Half the room. That's Kerouac. Which is interesting if you think about it, because he put a lot of words in there that didn't exactly move plot. So, what does that mean? Does anyone have any idea? Who can tell the speaker what that means?
Well, it sounds like Hemingway.
Go ahead, President.
To be literary, just get the damn story.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's it? Anyone else in the far corner?
Like it's on a test. You skip the ones you don't know and keep moving on.
Right. No time for poetry.
I think it's,
Pretty words not good in our books? No pretty words?
yeah, no fluff, take the fluff out.
Okay,
Pretty much the same. Get to the point.
get to the point. Yeah. Yeah, there's every author who's tipped has some version of this tip, I think. One more in the,
Show, don't tell.
Me?
yes?
Every time I think about not writing purple prose, I think about where the crawdads sing. And that's so much purple prose going into the...
I'm the only person I think hasn't read that book in America, but
No, it was good,
Yeah.
written, but it drove me nuts with all the prose.
yeah. So okay, what does that tell you? I mean,
The movie was good.
don't. Yeah, but ignoring some of these tips doesn't necessarily doom your sales if
Right.
crawdads has anything to say about it.
Instead of
Jesus.
get caught up in style, just what are you trying to say?
Yeah. Again, tips are they're not it's not traffic law. It's more like guideposts, I think, but still something to think about. Easy one. Never use a long word where a short one will do. It's very similar. We don't have to spend time on that one, but just to where a short one will do. So, Leonard. Almost a third of the room. Gaiman. 1. Orwell. Okay, Orwell it is. Y'all remember your scores, right? How many you gotten right? And more high fives in the back. These guys are going to go home with an arc, I think. Okay. I'm moving. How are we doing on time?
We're gonna move along.
Move along. How many more minutes do I have?
You have as much as you want, but I know that.
Are you guys having fun?
Yeah.
Is this good? Okay. Because I can cut it down to 8 or something. But anyway, number 7. The main rule of writing is that you do it with enough assurance and confidence. You're allowed to do whatever you like. Wait a minute. Hold on. If. The main rule of writing is that if you do it with enough assurance and confidence, you're allowed to do whatever you like. So that's forget all the tips, right? Everything that I should have saved that one for last. All right, I'm going to give you 3 choices. Gaiman, Twain, or Connolly, Michael Colony. All right. Do you want the tip again? The tip is believe in yourself, essentially, which Disney has drilled into our head. The main rule of writing is that if you do it with enough assurance and confidence, you're allowed to do whatever you like. And I really like that one because, when I started out my first book, I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was not, I was busy raising a family and writing screenplays to sell, to pay my mortgage. So I just didn't have a lot of time to read. and books in my genre. And so I did things that, I wrote in first person. I did this thing in Deep State where, just because I wanted to, because it was fun, with secondary characters. Someone who's going to be in one scene or one sequence or one chapter and then gone from the book, from the story completely. I would tell you in a paragraph or two what happens to them in their life. And I just did it because, what the hell? It didn't make any difference. I was writing this thing as a lark. And I did it about 4 or 5 times in the book. And like I said, I hadn't read enough books to know whether or not that was done, or if I couldn't do that. And it turns out no one had done that before. And I think it came from this idea of when I see movies and they, like Animal House, and they tell you what happens to Bluto, like that's what I would do. And so like there's in the first chapter, the prologue chapter of Deep State, my franchise character's in the Army and she's an amateur boxer. And her trainer is, a sergeant, her boxing trainer. And then has this big place in her life, but then she leaves to go off and save Western civilization, right? We're seeing the last of him at the bus depot. So then I go on and I tell you how he eventually separates from the military and moves back to Detroit and never thought about my franchise character again, Haley Chill, until he's coming out of a grocery store when he's 67 years old and muggers, stab him in the chest and he bleeds out. And then in that last moments, he thinks about Haley Chill for some, literary reason. Anyway, 9 out of 10 readers love it. People, and my publisher and editor said, don't you dare stop doing that. 1 out of 10 readers say, oh, I hate how he does that. It takes us out of the story. It's not necessary to moving the plots forward. And I did it with enough assurance and confidence to get away with it. So that's what, I break the rules. Do whatever the hell you want. Really, seriously. Oh, so, did we vote on that one? Okay, was it Gaiman? Smattering? Twain? 2, 3, or Michael Colony? Oh, many people think that. It was Gaiman! Finally, I gave Gaiman something. All right, number 8, follow characters and situations and see where they go instead of resorting to plot. It kind of gets back to what I had said earlier about as I've grown away from outlining, is just, really kind of having trust in your characters to, instead of being this, mastermind, all godlike individual who will plot everything out on, before you start writing, the sign of a good speaker is when the phones don't go off. So yeah, again, everyone has their own process, but I've really enjoyed kind of letting go a little bit with my plotty nature and becoming more of a discovery author. Yeah, very cool. So, Gillian Flynn, James Patterson, did I pronounce that right? Is it Gillian or Gillian? Gillian, James Patterson, or Stephen King. Follow characters and situations and see where they go instead of resorting to plot. Which master of the discipline said that? Gillian Flynn? No, one person, James Patterson. Remember your answers, please. 3, or Stephen King. Stephen King, man of many tips. I had to get one in. Very good. Man, there's some winners back there. Are you guys cheating or anything? Did you? Amazing.
I think they have Google back there.
All right, this one, okay. All right, I'm going to deliver this one very quickly, and I'm going to give you 3 choices. Number 9, leave out the parts readers tend to skip. Shh. Elmore Leonard, Leonard Elmore, or Leomore Elnard. Come on, right? One guy he's looking at me like, I don't recognize those writers. Elmore Leonard, come on, everyone knows that one. That was a giveaway. That's every author has that version of that tip, and that's it. But it's still, it's always a good one to like remember, to like just, write what people care about, leave out the boring parts. A lot of this stuff is drilled into you as a screenwriter. All the screenwriters out there would know, like, you only have 120 pages where the words don't go from margin to margin to accomplish a lot. And people in Hollywood hate to read. Remember that. They really do. They hate to read. My first job was as a reader, and that's because the executive, the producer, did not want to read. So in order to get the people who make the decisions to read, it really has to hit you in the gut. So don't, we talked about this before, leave out the poetry. 10, don't tell, this is a good one. This is an obvious one, but you know what?
Hold 1 second.
Yes. We didn't burn through a whole,
I think you made president into a verb.
I did that.
And I want to applaud that. I think that's
Oh, well,
so
thank you.
cool.
Thank you.
The president doesn't president all day long.
That's
I
right.
loved it.
That's right. All right, we're good to go. Okay, this is one, this one everyone knows, as any kind of professional writer would know this, but I think it needs to, and I love the way that this tip phrases it. Don't tell me the moon is shining, show me the glint of light on broken glass. Have you heard that one before?
Yeah, I love it.
You've heard that one before. Okay. Was it James Patterson, Chekhov, or Tanya French? Okay, Patterson, one person. Chekhov, most people. Tanya French, a few. Yeah, that was Chekhov. Really well, a really great tip. Doesn't need explanation or comment or anything. But I read that tip, and I had my document for the current book I'm working on, and I looked at the last page, and I just saw like 3 instances of telling someone that the moon was shining. I found better ways to like get that point across. Like I said, you're never too young for writing tips. 11, substitute damn every time you're inclined to write very. You got that? Substitute damn every time you're inclined to write very. Your editor will delete it, and the writing will be just as it should be. Again, very little to comment there, but, we all fall victim. So who said that? I gave you 3 ideas. Twain, Arthur Conan Doyle, or Agatha Christie. So was it Twain? Twain, Doyle? Nobody. Agatha Christie. It was Twain. Yeah. Yeah, the back row. He finally stumped you back there. Twain has a billion great, read Twain. I interviewed another author, a very famous author, for the Mark Twain House, of course via Skype or whatever it was, Zoom. And so the way I interviewed him was I took all these great Twain comments about writing. He's got 1 million of them. And so I would, similarly to this format, I would read the thing that Twain said, and then, this is some kind of record, and read the comment from Twain, and then I would ask the author, to comment. Exactly, I'm just the same version as this. And the lady from the Twain House, after she goes, that was so fantastic. And I was like, it just, like, no one ever thought about, like, tying Twain into the interview when it's being conducted by the Mark Twain House, but no. So very, no varies. There's never any reason for vary. No, so last one, unless we need a tiebreaker. Do we all have a good idea how many should we take a poll, see how many we have? See, all right, we don't have time for that. All right, number 12, last tip, and that would be, if you want to be a writer, then write. Don't think about it, do it. Every writing experience is a learning process. The more you do it, the better you will get. All right, that's a little kind of like little dad speaking, I guess. A little. What's good about that? What's good about that tip?
It's Nike. Just do it.
Yeah. I think that what I like about the one part I'll pull out is don't think about it. I like that. I mean, don't, people, and again, this sort of belies the whole writing tip business, but, like I said, I never took any classes. I'm not saying you can't take classes or get an MFA or any of that stuff, but, you read and then you write. And that's, I think Stephen King's got that one, like read a bunch and then write, and that's, don't think about it too much. Just have fun. They're all about being reckless and joyous and having confidence and enjoying the process. It's not supposed to be, it's not like cooking from a New York Times recipe, It's like have some fun in the kitchen. Okay, the 3 choices for number 12, and some of you might be really banging here and scoring some points. So pay attention. Lee Child, Michael Connelly. Why can't I pronounce that word? Thank you. Every time I point, that's who I mean, like Connelly. Or Chris Hauty. Who said that? So, was it Lee Child? Was it Michael? Okay, or was it, hey, what about Chris Hauty? He might have come up with that. No, thank you, front rows. All right, that was Michael. There you go. All right, so, all right, how many had all 12? How many had 11? How many had 10? How many had 9? Oh, 2. We're gonna have the showdown. 9. How many had 8? Okay, 7.
Okay, don't humiliate me.
How many got none? No, I'm teasing. All right, so we have 2 9s in the back row. I knew he was doing awesome. And right there, did you say you had 9? No. Okay, 9. All right, so, okay, I'm going to make this hard on you 2 experts. And no one in the peanut gallery help them out. Help them out. Okay, I'm not going to give you the name of the author. You're going to have to guess. It's like Jeopardy. First one, like, raise your hand, like when you know the answer. Okay, Alex. Writing tips for 100. Who said? Wait a minute. No, I wouldn't. This writer said, throw up in your typewriter every morning. Clean up every noon. Please answer in the form of a question. Okay, I'm going to have to revert to the 3 guesses then. Neither of you guys know? Oh, do you know? Oh, do you have a guess? Okay, go.
Who is Ray Bradbury?
Ooh, no. Sir, take a guess. You have a free shot before I go to three authors.
We know it's not Ray Bradbury.
Come on, listen to I'm going to repeat it again. This author quipped, throw up in your typewriter every morning, clean up every noon. And think about that I was confused driving down here. I thought it was the Southern California Crime Writers Association.
Oh, crime writer.
That's no fair.
Oh, you're giving a clue.
Shh. Is someone Googling it right now? Okay, I'm going to give you 3 tries. I'm going to give you, okay, was it
Neil Gaiman.
Mel Gibson? Was it Michael? Or was it? Yes, someone got it right. Who said that? Raymond Chandler. Oh my goodness. I brought 2 arcs.
I wasn't in the tie, so.
All right, I'm going to give an arc to each of our finalists. So that was fun. I really enjoyed that. We all learned something, I hope. Yeah, good. We all good?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.